All right, everyone. Jeremy Knauff here with another episode of Public Relations Declassified. And we're going to be unpacking a story that some of you guys may have seen in the news that ties in with branding, trademark, public relations, the whole nine yards. And we're going to be bringing on a special guest today, Angela Langlotz, who has been on with us a few times in the past. One of my favorite people and an absolute genius when it comes to intellectual property law. And she does a ton with trademark stuff. So what we're going to start today is talking about Patagonia versus Pattie Gonia. Trademarks, public relations, and crazies. Oh my. Yes. So if you have not heard about this story yet, let me just preface this by saying it is absolutely nuts. So this trans activist essentially illegally used Patagonia's brand to create her own kind of sub brand for weirdos. Now, as a result of that, right, like she didn't just call herself this, she was full on using the image, the logo, all kinds of stuff that is actually trademarked by Patagonia, the outdoor clothing company. So she was legit 100% infringing on their trademark, no question. So as a result, she was threatened with a lawsuit for trademark infringement. This is something that brands have to do legally. They are required to protect their IP or they will lose the ability to protect it, right? They'll lose that legal standing. So they sued her. Essentially, they only sued her for $1, right? They're not, well, not her. All right, let's be fucking real. Him. They sued him for $1, right? So they're not coming after him for any massive settlement, any kind of, major damages like they could and frankly should. They're just suing to, or threatening to sue to protect the brand. That's it, nothing more. Meanwhile, this weirdo is up here playing the victim of in a situation that he 100% created. Now, this is likely just a PR stunt, right? This person probably did this just to get the attention. And, on one hand, I kind of respect the game there, right? I'm not opposed to pushing boundaries. I'm not opposed to going into some gray areas sometimes when it comes to publicity. But this one is, frankly, a stupid one. It could end very easily if this person just stopped infringing on the brand. But I am going to go ahead and play a video that this guy put up where he's trying to frame himself as the victim and the company as some evil corporation, when in reality, they're just protecting the assets that they have created over decades and decades of being in business. Let's check this out.
Hi, everyone. It's Pattie Gonia. Today, I'm breaking my silence about the lawsuit that the multi-billion-dollar corporation Patagonia has filed against me, a drag queen and climate activist, for trademark infringement. Patagonia told the media they're only suing me for $1. What they're actually trying to do is to take away my name permanently and threaten me with more than $1 million in legal fees. This is not a brand conflict. This is a corporation trying to erase an activist. And this is how corporations bully individuals who cannot match their resources. Because this would take away not only my activism and my career, but also the livelihoods of the team I employ. This is a betrayal of Patagonia's core mission, because if they're in business to save the home planet, why are they suing a climate activist? Over the last 4 months since the lawsuit was filed, I've stayed silent, courteous, and worked every channel I could to resolve this without going to court. But in the end, I had two choices: the erasure of my name, my advocacy, my community, and everyone I employ, or to fight for myself and to fight for us. So I am fighting, and I'm inviting you to join me in a simple call to action. Patagonia, drop the lawsuit. And I want to tell you how this story started, because it didn't start with a lawsuit. It started in 2018 when I put on a pair of high heels on a backpacking trip and created my drag persona, Pattie Gonia, named after a region in South America called Patagonia, a name that predates both me and the clothing brand by 500 years. And since 2018, I've built a community of more than 3 million people, a nonprofit teaching allyship in the outdoors, hired more than 600 artists and advocates, toured drag shows nationwide about climate solutions, and together we've raised more than $3.7 million for nonprofits. So here's the part that made my jaw hit the floor. Patagonia, a multi-billion-dollar corporation, went to federal court in January to say that I am causing irreparable harm to their brand by doing, and I quote, motivational speaking services in support of environmental sustainability and organizing, arranging, and conducting trail and hiking events. I'm afraid and I'm frustrated. This is so much wasted time and money that could be spent fighting for the planet, and instead, Patagonia is taking me to court when I've offered them everything I could to avoid this. They chose this, not me. And while I don't know what will happen from here, I do know that they have more money and more lawyers, and they will use their full force, especially after this video. Pattie Gonia is one of the first things in my life that I am genuinely, deeply proud of. And the idea that this could all be taken away from me is my worst case scenario. Because if you've ever created something that mattered to you, a name, a community, a version of yourself that finally felt real, then I think you know what that fear feels like. My name is Pattie Gonia. I chose it, I've built it, I've earned it, and I am not going anywhere. Patagonia, drop.
Okay, what an absolute weirdo. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull Angela up here. We're going to talk about this from a few different perspectives. We're going to talk about it from the legal perspective, kind of break down how trademark law works, what you have to do as a company, what you shouldn't do as a company, what you have to do as an individual, what you shouldn't do as an individual, all that stuff. And then we're going to also break this down from a PR perspective, right? What should you do if you've infringed? What should you do if someone infringes on your brand? So we're going to unpack all that. So that being said, let's go ahead and pull Angela up. Angela, good to have you with us again today.
Thank you. How are you?
All right. Doing well, doing well. I think your video is froze here.
Yeah, it kind of looks like, oh, there it is. I'm back.
There it goes. There it goes.
Sorry.
There it goes. All good. All good. Hey, quick housekeeping note. Chrissy,
Yeah.
I emailed you a screenshot. If you can pull that in and just pop it up on the screen at some point here, man, textbook case of trademark infringement, especially once you, I don't know if you've seen the image that we're about to pull up here.
Let me see it.
Yeah. Once Chrissy gets that up, we'll pull it up. But in the meantime, okay. So let's just talk about this. Like, what is the legal process? Let's say you've got a corporation, you own a trademark like all of your clients do.
Right.
And you have that intellectual property that you own as an asset. Somebody comes out, they infringe on it. Talk about the obligations as a company first and foremost. Let's start there.
Okay. I'd kind of rather talk about the infringement.
Okay.
Can we talk about that first? Because that's sort of a threshold issue.
Yes. Chrissy just got it up. Check that out.
Oh dear. Yes. This is distressing. Okay. So, all right. Where do I start with this? Because it's like an onion that you kind of have to peel. All right.
Yes.
What is trademark infringement? Let's talk about that as a threshold issue, if you're okay with starting there, because I think it makes more sense to start
wherever
there.
You want to start. You're the legal expert on this, so I will leave that entirely in your hands.
Okay. And first I want to say, I'm not talking about the trans issue here. I'm just talking about the trademark. So if anybody wants to come at me and say, oh, you're anti-trans, transphobic, blah, 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 forget it. We're not even talking about that. Okay. I'm just here to talk about the trademark issues.
Yeah.
So when you have a trademark, you have to be careful to police it against infringers. What is an infringer? An infringer is someone who is using a confusingly similar trademark in a way that would lead other people to believe that there is some connection between your company and the infringing party. For example, if I started a footwear brand and I named it Mikey, right? And I spelled it M-I-K-E, people might wonder, and the logo looked exactly like Nike's, it's kind of a stencil looking, not the swoosh. I'm just talking about the word.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I made my Mikey word trademark in the same script as Nike does, and I started selling shoes. That would probably confuse the consuming public into believing that, I don't know, this was a co-branding arrangement, or there was some sort of connection between Mikey and Nike. All right. So that's trademark infringement. Trademark infringement also doesn't need to be that blatant. It can be something like you've got a 2-word trademark. Let me see if I can think of one. Like you sell shaving cream under the name Pure Silk, and somebody else comes up with a name for their shaving cream and they call it Silk Pure. That's actually trademark infringement. Why? Because you're just flipping the words around, and it could lead the consuming public to believe that there's some relationship between the trademark owner and your proposed trademark or your new brand. So that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at what is the likelihood that a consumer is going to be confused when they're confronted with these 2 brands on the store shelf or in advertising or out in the world on a billboard, whatever. If the consuming public would be confused, or there is a likelihood that they would be confused, that's a classic case of trademark infringement. Now, when you have a famous brand like Nike or Tiffany or Patagonia, people like to knock you off. Why? Because they're trying to trade upon your goodwill and sort of ride your coattails. So these sorts of trademarks that are famous means it's a household name. My video is lagging, isn't it?
Yeah, from time to time it is.
All right.
You said household name. Let's back up and unpack that one a little bit, because that's something that I think a lot of people misunderstand.
Mm-hmm. I'm closing down some windows here because I think that might help. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I think it helped. Okay. So yes, household name. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's on you.
So when I say a household name, I mean that, if you asked people, if you showed them a swoosh, and you know what I'm talking about, and you said, what clothing brand is this? Or what sneaker brand is this? What would they say?
Nike all day long. No
question.
question.
Of course. Why? Because Nike's a household name. They've been doing this for 50 years now. And they have spent billions of dollars in advertising and, sponsorships and other sorts of marketing materials so that their name is known in the footwear space and in the athletic clothing space as Nike, right? So that's what I mean when I say a household name. You are famous worldwide. Coca-Cola. If you show anybody any word in the Coca-Cola script and you ask them, what's this script? What brand is this script known for? They would tell you Coca-Cola. That's how distinctive the script is and how distinctive the brand is because of all the marketing. Now, these companies don't just get there in a day. They get there through a repeated, calculated strategy of advertising and marketing that requires an enormous investment of time and energy and money in order to make their brand famous. And that's why the trademark laws give famous brands with famous trademarks a lot more leeway to enforce their brands. There's a couple of reasons for this. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, this is great.
So the reason why they get extra protection against something called dilution, and I'll explain what dilution is in a minute, is because these famous brands often partner with other famous brands or other non-famous brands in order to do like co-branding. For example, Adidas has done co-branding with M&M, okay? Why? I don't know. They just like M&Ms, I guess, but whatever. So they had a co-branding deal. They've also done co-branding deals with Stella McCartney. Okay, so they had a Stella McCartney, who's I guess a famous brand too, not as famous as Adidas, but she's a fashion designer, and they did some kind of co-branding arrangement, right? So they need to keep control over their brand, because they may want to use it for other things that seem unrelated, but that they may want to add into their brand portfolio. For example, Tiffany and Company started out as a like they started out making lamps, right? Then they moved into jewelry. Then they moved into like china and crystal and silver. And now they actually have a restaurant. So you can go have breakfast at Tiffany's. All right.
Wow, I
So
had no idea.
imagine if we had told them, no, you can't expand your famous brand. We're not going to let you expand into restaurant services because, but they need to have the right to expand because they may do other things with their famous brand to expand their brand footprint and their business, and they may want to partner with other people. So if we tell them, listen, you've got to let a drag queen make stickers with your Patagonia name on them, right? That dilutes the Patagonia trademark and dilutes their strength because now they no longer have control over that brand asset.
What amused me about the whole situation was in that video that I played a minute ago, the guy is like, oh, well, they're not really true to their mission because they're supposedly, fighting for the environment. And I'm an environmental activist, so they should just let me do whatever the hell I want. Like, shut up, dude.
It's pretty arrogant, actually. I mean, sure. Do I applaud the guy for trying to save the environment? Absolutely. We all should be trying to mitigate our impact on the planet. Certainly. However, we can do that using our own trademark. What he's basically trying to do is he's trying to paint Patagonia as, big old mean corporation tugging at the heartstrings when that sticker on that water bottle, I don't know if you want to bring it up again, but that was a really good illustration.
Chris, pull that up again, please.
He's not just calling himself Pattie Gonia, right? Which probably wouldn't have triggered the amount of backlash that he's getting from Patagonia Inc. if he had left it alone, right? If he had just said, my name's Patagonia, I'm an environmental activist, blah, 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 that probably would have been okay. This is what sent them over the edge, right? Why? I don't know if you're able to bring up the Patagonia logo, but that logo, and when I say logo, I'm talking about the outline of the black mountain and the words Patagonia down below. He has put the letters Pattie Gonia in the exact same script font that Patagonia uses. And he's taken that mountain outline, the black outline with the white edges. He's taken that, which is part of their trademark, and incorporated that into a sticker that he has put, some rainbow things behind. Fine. But he's using their trademark. He's not just saying, oh, my name is Pattie Gonia. He is actually using their trademark to promote his own personal brand. Now, what his personal brand is for is beside the point. And I happen to know that Patagonia is run by, a very, progressive. There you go. Okay. Do you see what I mean? He has replaced the purple, orange, blue stripes in the background with the rainbow stripes. And he has used the exact same script and even down to the P. And he's used that outline right on his sticker. Thank you. Now, do we see, everybody? We see what the problem is, right? The problem is he has completely appropriated their trademark in such a way that a reasonable consumer, and I don't care that the mountain's a little higher on his sticker or a little lower on the Patagonia sticker, we know exactly what he's trying to do. And the only reason why he's doing it is because he is playing off of the Patagonia trademark that Patagonia has spent thousands and thousands, millions, we'll just say millions, probably tens of millions of dollars advertising over the years. I'm not saying this guy's a bad person. What I am saying, though, is that he is legitimately infringing the Patagonia trademark, and that's why they're coming after him. If he had just said, oh, my name's Patagonia and I'm a drag ranger, right? That would have probably not raised the type of what I want to say, I'll call it backlash or response. That wouldn't have gotten the same sort of response as he's getting from Patagonia now if he had left it there. But no, he couldn't leave it there. He had to go full trademark infringer and incorporate his Patagonia name, Pattie Gonia name, into their trademark logo and use their trademark logo in a confusingly similar way. Not cool, totally trademark infringement. Trademark dilution, which is kind of a sub, what well, no, it's part of the whole trademark infringement thing, but it's for famous marks. The only way you can have trademark dilution is if you have a famous mark. So if you have a famous mark, you get to make that claim. And I think that claim is properly made here. They are just asking him to stop and he won't, okay? They're saying the $1 is a token, right? They don't want to sue this guy. They likely first sent him probably a pretty friendly letter saying, hey, you know, respect what you're doing, but you got to stop infringing our trademark. And he's refusing. Like, I don't know who this guy's attorney is, but he's 100% wrong here. And he's going to end up not only losing his brand, but probably losing a bunch of money too. Because if I were Patagonia, I would be so ticked off at this point that I would be like, fine, let's just go after this, you know, jerk wagon, you know,
yeah.
I'd be mad. So
hit him for damages. 100%. I'm with
you.
You know,
no, I mean, at this point, he's just being stupid and stubborn.
Yeah. Two thoughts on that. First, you said Drag Ranger, and it gave me the idea. And they could make the funniest TV show, right? Mighty Morphin Drag Rangers. Totally. Wouldn't watch it, but that would be hilarious. I mentioned earlier that I think this whole thing it's just a PR play. I think he's doing this for the attention. And part of the reason that I say that is because I know what the process looks like in a situation like this. So for the people who don't understand, when you infringe on somebody, from either perspective, whether you're the brand or whether you're the person doing the infringing, let's talk about what that process looks like, because I think a lot of people see it as a lot bigger and scarier than it is. It's actually a pretty reasoned, very slow stepped process. So talk about what happens in a case of infringement.
Yeah. So normally you get a letter and it says, hey, we think you're infringing our trademark and we'd like you to stop. So here's what we'd like you to do. We'd like you to, you know, destroy your inventory of products that infringe upon our trademark. We would like you to, you know, take down your webpage. If their webpage is like branded with their trademark or has a URL that's close to their trademark, you will typically ask for that to be taken down. We want you to erase that name from your social media accounts and basically just stop using this infringing term, right? And, you know, please do so in 30 days. And a reasonable person will usually retain counsel right back. They'll either say, like, I just tell my clients when they're infringing, right? Like, you don't want to wrangle with these big brands. Some of them, yes, are trademark bullies, but most of them aren't. Okay. Marvel are definitely trademark bullies. Chanel is not. Okay. So, and there are some people that have a bad reputation. Marvel is one of those. Their legal counsel is usually nasty, and they make up trademark. They make up trademark infringements that don't really exist as a practical matter.
I think Disney is guilty of that quite a bit too. They're incredibly aggressive.
I haven't dealt with Disney, but I have dealt with Chanel. Chanel was lovely. You know, we just had to agree that we weren't going to use a certain mark in a way that was infringing. And my client was like, yeah, of course I'm not going to do that. That's not part of my brand. Right. And we just left it at that. And they were lovely. Marvel is like, oh no, you can't use the word bat on your truck modifications. Right.
Oh my God.
No, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. They weren't selling a bat mobile or anything like that. But no, Marvel is terrible. And I don't care that everybody knows it. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, you usually get a letter, and usually you respond to the letter, and you either argue that you're not infringing, or you say, oh gosh, you know what? Now that you brought this to our attention, I think you're right. You know, can we have some more time to make the transition? Can we have 90 days? You know, but you got to respond, because if you don't respond, they're not going away. Okay. Right. They've hired the attorney to write the letter, and
deeper than that, the attorney's already on staff, right? Like,
not always. Not always.
Okay.
A lot of companies use contract attorneys. Like Marvel uses contract attorneys.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's kind of surprising. Okay. Yeah.
I was surprised by that too. And
but in either case, they've already got the budget allocated for responding to this kind of stuff every year anyway. So they already.
And remember,
worked in.
These are famous brands, right? So, well, not everything's a famous brand, but usually you'll get a letter from their counsel, right? If you get a letter from them, tell them, this is what I do. I say, wait until they send a letter from their attorney, right? Because some of these trademark owners are just yahoos. They don't understand what the bounds of their trademark rights are. Like they just think that
dealt with one of those. You and I dealt with one of those not too long ago.
Yeah, if anybody utters the word, then you're infringing my trademark. And I just say, ignore them. They'll either go away or they'll hire an attorney. If you hire an attorney, then we can respond to, if they hire an attorney, then we can respond to the attorney. But I'm not arguing about the law from the trademark infringement defense lawyer's perspective. I am not arguing with lay people about what the law is. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not responding to a cease and desist letter from somebody not represented by counsel. I'm just not. It's a complete waste of my time.
Sure. Yeah. So, well, most of the time they use that as a bully tactic. They think, oh, if I send a letter, or if I have my attorney send a letter, they're going to get scared and fold.
No.
Like if you don't have the grounds for a real defense, it means shit.
Yeah. So I basically I'll look at the letter and say to my client, listen, I think these people are full of it. And there are times when I've basically told opposing counsel, I think you're full of it and we're not going to do what you ask us to do.
Yeah.
And most of the time I never hear from them again. It was a total bullying tactic. Sometimes I do hear from them again, something that says like, well, we disagreed with what you said, but nevertheless, here's what would make us happy, right? So they basically concede and then say, let's just agree to these boundaries, which is what my client wanted in the first place, right?
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to handle that, but yeah, wait to get a letter from an attorney. When you get the letter from the attorney, respond, right? Like, don't just bury your head in the sand and think that they're going to go away. They're not. And it's best to have an attorney look at it, a trademark attorney. Okay. Don't take this to your general attorney because they're not going to know what the trademark laws are. It's a very specialized legal area with a lot of nuance that I don't think people fully appreciate.
Yeah. And that was how we handled that one, right? Like
yeah.
you were the brains. And then we had Chris do the actual, it wasn't litigation because it never went to court, but he was doing I don't even know what would you call that? Like he's engaging with the other side's counsel, but it wasn't litigation. But basically, yeah, you were the brains, you kind of steered things, and he handled the execution. And that's the ideal way to go. Like,
because I don't do federal court litigation. So I will either pass it off to a partner. When I say partner, I mean another attorney that's like a referral source for me, for them to do, because I don't litigate in federal court. I do litigate before the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board. I don't even really like doing that anymore. So, I mean, I'll send letters back and forth with opposing counsel, but you know, if they file an opposition, I'm probably going to hand that off just because I don't really like doing it. But it almost never goes there, right? Like it almost never goes there because they don't really want to sue you. What they want you to do is stop. That's not always a reasonable request though. And an attorney can evaluate, a trademark attorney can evaluate whether or not that request is reasonable. Sometimes it is reasonable. And if it is, I tell my client that. And if it's not reasonable, I tell my client that too. Because you know what? Sometimes my clients are wrong. Sometimes they're in the wrong. And when they are, I mean, my job is to keep them out of court if possible. And so I just tell them when I think they're wrong and when I think they should stop. And, you know, they almost always take my advice.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the legal and financial implications of this. Like what happens when somebody does infringe and it is provable, it is legally a defensible position that they're in the wrong.
Yeah.
The damages for that get pretty big pretty quickly. So let's talk about that for a second before we move on to the PR side, which I'm going to keep you on for the PR side because there is some legal aspects and we'll just kind of bat that back and forth as well.
Okay, cool. So what can happen? They can sue you for money damages. Okay, so they can do that. If they do that, most of the time they actually have to have damages that they can prove. That is, you sold X amount of inventory branded with our trademark. And so that is all money that properly belongs to us. We call that disgorgement. We want you to disgorge all of your ill-gotten gains that you earned from the infringement of our trademark. That is a typical ask. They can also ask for things other than money damages, like destroy the inventory that bears the infringing trademark, take down social media accounts.
Can they demand a public apology?
Yeah, but that's probably not going to happen, right? Like we're talking about, so there are two things. There are legal equities and then there are equitable remedies. Equitable remedies are things like action, right? Take down your accounts, stop telling the rest of the world, stop slandering us and causing harm to our commercial image by continually painting yourself as a victim when you're a trademark infringer. Okay. Like right. You can have the judge order them to stop doing those things. So you can have the judge order them to do or not do certain things. And you can also demand money damages. So money damages for things like, the stuff that you sold that should have been their profit, right? So this disgorgement of profits. You can also ask for attorney's fees if the infringement is willful. And in this case, I think Patagonia has probably crossed over into willful territory. What is willful? You knew you were infringing and you continued to do it anyway. Okay. Like there was some woman who was selling counterfeit Nike shoes or something. Nike asked her to stop. She said, oh yeah. I'll stop. Well, she didn't stop. She kept doing it. She wanted to play games. And so Nike sued her again a second time and got damages for willful trademark infringement. The damages for willful trademark infringement are 3 times the actual damages, okay, plus attorney's fees. Do you really want to pay? Do you really want to be liable for like $1 million in attorney's fees? Do you know what these big law firms bill? Some of them bill like $1,000 an hour, Jeremy.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's complete insanity. Okay. So, I mean, whenever I see people doing this stuff, I'm like, on what planet are you living? I mean, these are just the stupid and stubborn people. And I think Pattie Gonia is falling into that category. He's reached the point where it's basically like, it's about saving face for him, where he's like, and it was for this lady too. She was like, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep making these, I'm going to keep making the bag because all they can do is tell me to quit. Well, no, ma'am. They can do a lot more than that. They can seize your entire inventory. They can seize your bank accounts because they've got an order from a judge that says quit. You can also be held in contempt of court if you don't stop. The judge can say, I ordered you to stop. I ordered you to stop defaming them. I ordered you to take down these social media accounts and you didn't. I'm finding you in contempt of court, and you can be jailed for contempt of court. You're not being jailed for the trademark infringement. You're being jailed for the refusal to do what the court ordered you to do. You can't just say, well, I'm not doing that. You can't. Yeah. I mean, you can, but you're going to go to jail until you comply.
Absolutely. The consequences add up really fast. And I don't think people realize how serious it gets especially when you're dealing with a big brand.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, because listen, if they let you continue, it's going to embolden other people, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure it creates case law too, because if you're not defending it,
yeah,
then somebody else can say, well, they're not really defending their brand, so this is okay, right?
Right. So what happens is it's dilution, right? Remember how we talked about dilution? You are diluting the strength of your brand by letting other people use it. And this video lag is really driving me crazy. I have high-speed internet, y'all. I don't know what's going on here. But yeah, if you allow other people to use your brand in a way that would confuse the consumer, that is a dilution of your trademark strength. And if you do that long enough, you will find that your trademark is no longer defensible. And these big brands have spent tens of millions of dollars building that brand reputation. And let's talk about that too. So you've got a drag queen here. I have nothing against drag queens. Okay. But, and Patagonia is a pretty progressive company.
Sure.
But they may not want the Patagonia name associated with drag queenery. Okay. And that's fine. And that's their right. They have, as the brand owner, as the trademark owner, they have the right to decide how they want their brand to be viewed by the public. And you know how important this is, being in PR, right? So maybe they don't want a drag queen associated with their brand, and that is perfectly valid. And they need not ask any permission or any forgiveness for that. It's their brand and they're the boss, right? So there's also that aspect to it as well. It's called it's not really false light, but it can cause reputational harm if your brand stands for one thing and it's associated with another, right? Like Patagonia also wouldn't like it if the KKK put the Patagonia brand on their robes, right? Okay. So it's not just a one-sided thing. We don't want people associated with our brands who are going to cause us reputational harm or cause people to make an association with our company that is unflattering to us. Yeah.
So let's segue into the PR side of this. So, like I said, I think the whole thing is a PR stunt.
Sure.
Based on the actions, based on how the process works. I think he figured he would just do this, get a whole shitload of publicity, everything would go away, and then that's the end of it.
It's not going away.
No, it's not going to go away. He's going to have to back down because he's legally in the wrong.
Yeah.
So I want to unpack things from a couple of different perspectives here. One is, what should you do if you've infringed on another brand? My thoughts from a PR perspective is avoid this shit.
Yeah.
Because once you do end up in this situation, it's going to make your brand look bad. You're not going to be the victim. And I don't care what stupid label you stick on yourself and say, oh, well, they're coming after me because of this. They don't like that I'm this or I'm that.
They don't care.
Right.
They want you to stop using their brand. Just do that.
It's a legal thing, right? So the foundational thing is, don't do dumb shit unless you're intentionally trying to get, suit, right? Like you and I have talked about one that I was actually playing around with on that kind of concept, which I am going to execute shortly. So don't do it if you don't want to get sued. If you do it, you're going to get sued, or at least you're going to get the legal process started, the cease and desist, all of that stuff. If you do find yourself in a situation like that, man, from my perspective, as somebody who is not an IP attorney, first fucking thing I'm doing is I'm calling Angela, right? Like,
that's always a good idea.
So that's the first thing I'm doing. And then it's going to be, all right, what do we need to do? Like, obviously we're going to take it down. We're going to comply. We're going to do whatever we need to do. But do we have any other further exposure, right? Yeah. On the other side of the coin, what do you do if someone infringes on your brand? Well, we can never just let this shit go, because if somebody is infringing on your brand, like Angela was talking about before, that's dilution. It weakens the brand. It hurts your brand image. And it also takes away standing to go after other people in the future. If you let people get away with it, then it gives them grounds to use that as a defense, right?
Sure.
So absolutely move forward instantly and aggressively, right? First thing is a cease and desist letter.
Yep.
Well, first thing, of course, is having a trademark. You need to have a trademark in order to be able to defend it. And most people do that way too late. So if you are in a position where you need a trademark, you don't yet have one, absolutely look Angela up. And I'll have Chrissy drop her contact info in. Ange, I don't know if you saw, but you're actually in my last video too.
Oh, am I? I didn't notice.
I can't for the life of me remember what the hell we were talking about getting defamatory content taken down.
Oh yeah.
So you can either go to the old video from last week, episode 68, I think it was. All of her contact info is there, but Chrissy will drop all of Angela's contact info in the chat here in the Facebook group as well. But if you need a trademark, if you don't have one yet, do that shit now, because it takes a lot longer than you anticipate, right? You're looking at probably what, about 12 months these days?
10 to 12 months, depending. We generally hear back from the trademark office after we file in 4 to 6 months. So depending on what else happens in the trademark process, we could be at, we could get a registration at 10 months. We could get it at 12 months. We could get it at some other point in the future. It just depends on what else goes on. But 95% of the time, I'm getting registrations in 10 to 12 months.
Okay. And aside from the timing on that, the other thing is, guys, don't try to do this shit yourself.
Don't.
I'm pretty fucking smart when it comes to IP law. Nowhere near Angela's level, obviously. But I mean, I've been in media and design and advertising and marketing for over 2 decades. So I was like, oh, like I know this stuff pretty damn well. I'm just bang this trademark out. This was for a side project I was doing. I was like, I'm just going to bang this out, and then I'll, if I run into any problems, I'll just call Angela. Like I was in bed sick one day anyway, so I was like, fuck it, I'll just go ahead and fill out my own trademark application. And then they rebutted with some kind of question, or they needed some additional information, whatever. And so I called Angela and I'm like, hey, here's what's going on. Can you take a look at this and tell me what I did wrong? And the answer was essentially everything.
There are some things I can't fix. And that's the problem when you file yourself, is that there are lots of ways to screw up a trademark application like you can't even imagine. Some of my clients have screwed up trademark applications in ways that I didn't even imagine, but there it was, right?
So that part is critical. Like you have to hire a professional, because like I said, I know this stuff pretty damn well, and I still fucked up almost everything in my application. Didn't end up being a huge issue because I ended up letting that project just kind of die on the vine. But you're not going to do it right yourself. And this includes LegalZoom. LegalZoom is not hiring a professional. And there's a few other services that help you get your trademark, and they're all horse shit. You need a real person who knows what they're doing. That having your trademark set up properly is the key to being able to defend it. Because if you set it up wrong, even if it gets approved, if it's not set up the right way, you won't really have the legal defense that you otherwise would. So definitely get that trademark. If somebody infringes, do your C&D, your cease and desist. And then, if necessary, follow through with litigation. The other side of this equation is the public statement side. And this is regardless of which side you're on. If you've accidentally or on purpose infringed on someone's brand, or if someone else has infringed on your brand and you now have to come out and, put the carrot away and break out the stick, you may end up having to make a public statement, right? If the other side of this equation makes a public statement, then you probably should make a public statement. Again, and don't do this yourself either, right? This is the kind of thing you need to run by an experienced publicist and an experienced attorney so that you don't put yourself into a bigger problem. I've seen so many cases where somebody thinks they know how to handle a situation, and then they just try to do it themselves. Case in point, Angela, I think you've met this guy before. I had a client who had a massive PR crisis. This one was quite a while ago, almost destroyed the business, right? Took them they were the fastest growing company, franchise company in the country at the time. They were just pouring in revenue hand over fist. And then they had some franchisees leave, and things went sideways. The franchisees went online and started attacking the company. A reporter reached out to the CEO and wanted to interview him. And I was like, all right, we need to do some prep. We need to get your talking points dialed in. We need to make sure you're saying the right things, not saying the wrong things, all of this. Oh, I'm good. They're just going to ask me some questions and I'm just going to talk. I was like, this is not a good idea. We need to prep you for this. Well, lo and behold, he couldn't make the time for this, got interviewed, and slipped up and said something that was very easily interpreted to sound like he was agreeing with the franchisees who had left and were now trying to file a class action lawsuit against the company. Yikes. Completely destroyed the company instantly. They ended up, as a result, dwindling down to about $300K in revenue from millions and millions of dollars.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, that just highlights how easily this shit can go wrong.
Yep.
So if you do have, if it is a situation where you have to make a public statement, which generally I would avoid unless the other side has made a public statement.
Mhm.
If you do have to make a public statement, talk to an experienced publicist who has dealt with PR crises, and talk to an attorney who understands IP law, right? Like if I had a situation like this, Angela is literally the first person I would call because she understands IP law.
Mhm.
And then if I had to get into litigation, I've got my other attorney who's handled a bunch of stuff for us before as well. And basically Angela then acts as the brain and he does the litigation side of it. This shit fester. Whoops. Oh.
We just swapped.
Yeah, I see that. What is this, Freaky Friday?
I don't know. I think it's Wacky Wednesday.
All right, we're just going to leave those where they are. Give people a change of pace. But yeah, that's the approach. You cannot just let this shit sit because it's not going away. It's going to become a bigger problem, and that will cause long-term reputational damage. Right? If you're being sued, if you're doing things that others could interpret as dishonest or disingenuous.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, it hurts you way more than you realize. So it could be a cute way to play around if you want to, drum up some publicity like the one you and I talked about with some certain 80s references. But in fact, I got to talk with you about that after we get off here.
Okay.
But you just have to be aggressive. You have to follow through on this every time. And on the other side of it, just don't fucking infringe on other people's brands because it's going to cause more problems than it ever solves.
Yeah. My general rule is if you're being cute and playing off of somebody else's brands, that's going to be an issue. Don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
if you're doing it, stop.
Reminds me of that Michael Jordan commercial from the 90s. Just stop it.
Get some help.
I love that you grabbed that reference right off the top of your head.
No, but it's such good advice, right? Stop
Yes.
it. Get some help.
Awesome. Well, Angela, is there any closing thoughts you have before we wrap up this segment?
Not really. That's kind of my wrap up. Stop it. Get some help. If you're
okay. Good stuff. Well, Angela, thanks again for joining us today.
Thanks for having
we'll have
me.
you on again in the future. But yeah. And for everyone else, if you're an entrepreneur, at the very minimum, go look her up online. Go follow her if you're not already. That way she's in your circle. And if you get to a point where you need her, she'll already be there. So,
yeah, I'm old, so I'm on Facebook. Right?
Yes.
So
well,
give
you and
me
me
a friend
both.
request or follow me on Facebook.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Angela, and look forward to having you on another episode soon.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. All right, guys. So, yeah, this is a serious thing. A lot of people play it off. They think it's no big deal. They think they can do whatever and then just ignore it. Look, it doesn't work that way. You have to avoid infringing. And if you are infringed on, you have to fight it. You have to be aggressive and you have to consistently do that. So, Patagonia is in the right here. No question. This drag whatever is clearly legally violating it. It's going to make more problems for this guy in the long term. Patagonia is going to come out just fine in the end. They've got tons and tons of money. They've got a brand that people love, and they've got tons of marketing dollars. So Patagonia is not going to be hurt in the end, right? You've got some angry people who are trying to attack them for this, but the reality is they're going to come out on top. This other activist is going to get hurt, and it's going to end up costing him a lot of money in the long run. So avoid that kind of situation. And if you do find yourself on the other side being infringed, just be aggressive. So that will then segue us into Jeremy's PR PSA for the day, which is if you fail to consistently protect your brand, it will become irrelevant and you'll lose critical legal protections in the future, right? If we're not out here policing our brand, protecting it, defending it from the infringers, then other people, when they infringe, they can use that as a defense, right? If you've let other people infringe on your brand, they can use that to say that you're not actually protecting the brand. It's not actually a real brand. You're not serious about it. And that gives them legal cover to do that. So we have to be consistent, almost religious with this. All right, guys. So that's going to be a wrap for today. Man, today's episode ran a bit longer than I expected. We're at about 50 minutes here. But I think we unpacked a lot of great information. Angela shared a ton of insight that will benefit all of you guys. Go look her up. Go connect with her. And if there's somebody that you think would benefit from the information that we talked about here today, I'd love it if you'd share this with them. And check us out on YouTube and drop a comment and a like. All right, guys. That's a wrap for today. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you all in the next episode.